Hello and welcome to The Sun and the Moon. This is a prequel to the Divine Speaker, or rather the demo for the prequel. But anyway, it's a prequel, and if you haven't played the Divine Speaker yet, well, first of all, what are you waiting for? It's a great game. It's a boys' love visual novel with a branching narrative with different romance routes, and this prequel, in contrast, is linear, which makes sense for a prequel. But yeah, if you haven't played the main game yet, the prequel is kind of spoilery, even just the main characters, I would say. So yeah, I strongly advise, if you're interested, to check out the main game first. I have the demo on my channel, but you also can play the demo for that for free. Or yeah, check out the whole game, check out a let's play, whatever. Or if you don't care about spoilers, then sure, just keep being here. I'm fine with that too. Just fair warning. Because I personally just don't like spoilers, so yeah. Anyway, I'm really excited for this because I just like the Divine Speaker a lot. And to get more content so soon after its release, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, not really that much to say. So I think let's just get into it. Welcome to the demo for the Divine Speaker, The Sun and the Moon. This game is a prequel to the Divine Speaker and is best played after completing at least one route. Please note, this game will contain spoilers for those that have not yet played the main game. Yeah. Even they are saying it. It all began with the sun and the moon. The sun burned radiantly, so bright and warm. Contrary to that, the moon surrounded itself with the embrace of the night and danced with the stars. The moon could only glow because of the sun, and the sun shone just for its moon. Desperately in love, but destined to remain polar opposites, just out of reach. Those fleeting moments at dawn and dusk were like heaven. Those slight glimpses were all they were ever allowed. And so, every night and every morning, they sacrificed themselves for one another, forever apart. Hidden deep within the palace walls was a room where sunlight could not reach, birds couldn't be heard singing, and any chance of fun was non-existent. Tall bookcases reached all the way to the ceiling, filled with knowledge both old and new, public and forbidden. The royal archives, the personal library of the royal family and the Divine Speaker, and now a classroom for two very unimpressed young men. A musty smell settled around them. Somehow it was both pleasant and suffocating at the same time. On top of this was the low drone of someone speaking, continuing on with a lesson. And inside the young speaker in training's head, a swirl of voices that couldn't be stopped. Even if he wanted to concentrate, he couldn't. All the voices, both real and not, mixed and stirred in his mind, becoming one cascading scream. Emil glanced at the boy sitting next to him. He stared out at the door, not paying any attention to their lesson. As per usual for him. Emil's notes were laid out on the table in front of him, neat and in order. His handwriting was tidy and respectable, enough so to make the older woman watching over him smile, proud. But when her gaze shifted towards Caspian's loose sheets of paper, half scrunched up and half stained with what was probably coffee, a scowl came to her face. A smile came to Emil's face. In many places, he felt as though he had a long way to go in catching up to Caspian. But not in this case. Teach, can't we just skip today's lesson and go outside instead? It's too nice out there to be stuck in this stuffy room. Emil sighed, used to this same discussion every day. But even so, he felt a tug at his heart that made him want to agree with the young brown-haired man. It was a fault he couldn't ever shake. Something about the way Caspian spoke made people, and especially Emil, want to listen. You never change, Caspian. But I suppose I never do either. Emil sucked in a breath. He had never been good at not doing what he was told, but... I can keep an eye on him, and we'll be back before it gets dark. I promise. Are you kidding me? Gods, please tell me this is a joke. How do you two ever intend to lead our town if you can't even sit through one lesson? A good king must know every single rule and regulation. And of course, the divine speaker must as well. Snore. And secondly, both of you need to work on your manners. You would dare talk back to me? How do you expect to command the masses when you can't even take me seriously? Arala, Teach, we don't need dumb lessons to be able to get along. Emil and I already know all we need to know. Anything else? We'll get to it when we get to it. Emil could feel his brow becoming sweaty. He agreed, of course, but he dared not speak up about that. Prince Caspian! Gods, if this is the way our town is going... That's it. We'll start again from page 1. Obviously, these lessons aren't getting through to you. Aurelia Cavella is surrounded on all sides by the evil forest. Only by the grace of the divine beings, the gods that watch over us, can we live here in safety. The king and the divine speaker have worked together harmoniously for thousands of years, and you're expected to do the same. Psst! Emil! Emil watched Caspian out of the corner of his eye, careful not to attract any attention from their teacher. Yeah? Let's get out of here. Don't you think she'll catch us? Maybe it's not a good idea. No way. We're way faster than her. Come on, I can't go without you. Fine, you go first. Shh, follow me. Arala spun around deep into one of her lectures. She'd get into this speech mode every now and then, usually when Caspian offended her in some way or another, which was most days. Emil, while excited, couldn't help but feel a little bad. Between the two of them, he was always the good kid. But Caspian is much more important to me than any lesson. So, from the start, the divine beings protect our lands, all thanks to the speaker. Our king leads the masses, with the speaker at his side. Together, the two create a rule that no other could achieve alone. The king could not rule without his speaker, nor the speaker without his king. The speaker must be prepared at all hours to commune with the gods, to obey their wishes, and to support his king. He must be not only in tune with himself, but with the spirits and gods as well. However, if you... Where do you think you're going? Whoops. See you later, Teach. We've got somewhere to be. Sorry, Miss Arella. We'll be back later. Don't miss me too badly. Wow. This way, before she catches up. Phew, I think we escaped. Nice idea, hiding in here. Caspian collapsed down by the wall, huffing and puffing from all the running. Emil dropped down next to him. I'm pretty worn out too, honestly. Once she catches up with us, we're dead. I know what you're thinking. If she catches up, we'll just keep running. Easy, don't you think? That was boring anyway, right? How many times has she told us the same thing? The king and speaker must rule harmoniously. Yeah, we get it. Yeah, but aren't you worried that one day we'll, actually need to know that stuff? Seriously? Why bother worrying about that? We've known each other our whole lives. We don't need that grandma teaching us how to work together. I guess you're right. And then we'll finally be in charge. No more boring lessons. Exactly. Just you and me, forever. Emil reached up and stretched out his shoulders. Constantly poring over books isn't good for your back, apparently, but the only way to keep up with the lessons is to study into the night. The sun was still high in the sky, and the weather was pleasant. Not cold and not hot either, just right. A few lazy clouds floated gently through the sky, shaped like nothing in particular. But for some reason, Emil found his eyes drawn to them anyway. The sky is so big, much bigger than our city. When Emil looked at the sky, he felt so small, so fragile. In a way, it made him feel better about everything. Maybe he could be a forgettable cloud, drifting lazily through life too. Maybe his problems were just a speck of dust compared to that wide blue expanse. Emil glanced sideways at Caspian's profile. When you look at him like this, he really does look like a capable leader. Like his dad. Unfortunately, his personality tends to betray him. Such was the way of Caspian, Crown Prince and Chief Troublemaker of Aurelia Cavella. Some days he had the makings of a perfect leader, and on others, not so much. But it's fine. I like both sides of him. No matter the kind of person he becomes, I'll always like him. Do you ever wonder what it will really be like? What do you mean? Actually being the speaker. What if I can't do it after all? What a silly thing to worry about. Hey! Of course you can. I mean, how could you fail with me at your side? As long as you don't end up as stuffy as Lucius, that is. He's not stuffy. Agree to disagree, then. I think if we looked up the words pompous asshole in the dictionary, that'd be a sketch of his smug little face. Long white robes and a haughty personality aren't a good look. Suppressing a laughter here. And that's disregarding the fact he hates me for some reason. He treats me as if I'm a child. He doesn't hate you. Oh, trust me, he hates nearly everyone. You're just biased because you spend so much time around him. Anyway, even if it is scary, I'll be here. And you'll be way cooler than Lucius too. Me? Cool? You must have me mistaken for someone else. Caspian shrugged, obviously not agreeing with the silver-haired man once again. I'll be there to keep you in line. I swear, if I see a single white robe in your wardrobe. Emil looked down towards the ground, suddenly feeling bashful. Yeah, you're right. But hey, listen. Lucius is a nice guy, so maybe if you just spend a little more time with him. No thanks. I think I'd rather eat my own shoe than hang out with him. Start chewing then. Wait a second, I didn't really mean it. So you're telling me you would lie to me? A smirk rose to Emil's face as he watched Caspian glance down towards his shoes. Fine, I know that you're a stubborn idiot who will never be convinced of anything, but Lucius really is what a speaker is supposed to be. I guess that's why I was worried that I wouldn't be able to live up to that. You're plenty enough. Prince Caspian, Emilius, I'm going to find you, and when I do... Quick. Caspian grabbed Emil by the hand and pulled him behind the nearest bag of trash. Rubbish was overflowing from the top, falling all over the ground. The smell was both rotten and sweet, and the two boys held their breath as loud footsteps stomped past them. Is she gone? I think so. Caspian stayed crouching, at first glancing around in search of Arella, before turning to peer at Emil. Hey, I only just noticed. You're wearing the headpiece I got you. Emil's hand raised up towards the intricate crescent moon ornament that adorned his head. In all honesty, he had found it embarrassing at first to wear something so gaudy, but he felt his stomach do backflips when he remembered that Caspian was the one who had gifted it to him. I'll keep it forever. Of course I am. You got it for me after all. It really suits you. Bitter. That feeling was back again. That feeling he'd been trying to ignore lately. Really? I feel like people have been staring at me. It must look strange. Maybe I shouldn't wear it. Isn't that only natural? Oh, behold the radiance of the divine speaker to be. Thank the gods I have been practicing my curtsy. Ha ha, very funny. I'm not going to force anyone to bow to me. What was that you said about Lucius? And now you want me to make people curtsy? No one said anything about forcing. They'll do it of their own will. Right, that makes it so much better. Perhaps a little practice is in order, young Master Speaker. Would you like me to bow to you? Emil's chest tightened. An uncomfortable feeling, but one he'd become all too aware of lately. His cheeks felt hot, as if he were sick. I don't know what's wrong with me. Perhaps I'm sick after all. But I feel fine apart from that. Hmm? Nothing. You're not still comparing yourself to Lucius, are you? Caspian, what if I'm nothing but a disappointment? While I struggle to even speak in front of a crowd, Lucius, he... young master speaker, finally we agree upon something. Just how could we compare the two of you? I mean, it's almost unfair. He pales in comparison to you. Really, I feel a little sorry for him. What? When he spoke, Emil could feel himself hanging off of every word, as if everything that came out of his mouth was pure gold. A precious feeling, and a painful feeling. A feeling he couldn't even begin to understand. So this is where you two were hiding. Ugh! You two are in serious trouble. The two of you need to start taking this more seriously. You're both adults now, and you need to act like it. Hey! Caspian grabbed Emil by the hand and pulled him straight past their teacher and out of the alleyway. Behind them, they could hear heavy stomping. Get back here! Your father is going to kill you! Tell my father he can go stick it. What? What the heck, eh? Caspian. His rebel face, obviously. Caspian, you can't say that about the king. Why not? Because he's the king. He's just my dad. I feel like I always get caught up in your mess. And I bet you wouldn't have it any other way. Emil scoffed, but couldn't find himself saying he disagreed. Running away is all well and good, but now what? It won't be long until she catches up with us again. You know your father will be furious when he finds out what happened. Somewhere that she and Dad won't find us. The fields? The fields? Emil blinked once, then twice, confused. He wasn't sure he heard Caspian quite right. You know we can't go there. Your father forbids it. Well, I don't care what he forbids me from doing, and he can't control you. You aren't even related. But... come on, it'll be fun. Pretty please? We'll just go have a look around, and then come back. Alright, but when he asks, I had nothing to do with this. It was all my idea. That damn Caspian corrupting the mind of our speaker. Just what is the world coming to? Caspian flashed Emil with a toothy grin. It was as if he never had a worry on his mind, and that was something Emil deeply envied. He was everything he wished he could be. That's what all these strange feelings are. Envy. I look plain and boring next to him. Oh, I have to take a moment because I've been there. But like, when way younger than he was. Don't you think we'll attract too much attention just waltzing through the center of town? We're not even supposed to go anywhere unattended. Unattended. What would they prefer? We stay locked up in the castle, waiting to be saved or something? Who cares if they look at us? They can think whatever they want. I don't want to be stuck in there all day. It's too stuffy. Stuffy? They trip over each other to speak to us. Everything they say is to gain some stupid imaginary friendship currency, so that when we take over, we'll extend them whatever favors they ask. I'm sure they're not all like that. And I'm sure the majority only wants something from us. No thanks. We're gonna make it on our own. You're the only one I want by my side anyway. That feeling again. It hurts. Yeah, that big envy, huh? It didn't take long for the two to cross through the various districts and reach the fields that homed all of Aurelia Cavella's food sources. Cattle and sheep grazed next to fields of rice, wheat and corn. Emil looked on in interest. He was once again reminded how little of the world he truly knew. What now? Are we meant to sit and watch the grass grow? Don't tell me you have some childish game cooked up in that brain of yours. His eyes lit up instantly. No, wait. Great idea. You're it. At a speed almost inhuman, he tapped Emil on the shoulder and quickly disappeared into the fields. Instantly he was lost in the rows upon rows of tall plants. Seriously? We're too old for this. What will people think if they see us? I said you're it. You'd think at 18 he'd be above this. There's no way I'm playing this stupid kids game. Yeah, no way. Ugh. Emil shoved his pride to the side and leapt into the crops, running after him. Which way did he go? Hey, where are you? Over here. Where's here? In the wheat fields. Obviously. No matter which way Emil looked, he couldn't see him anywhere. Not a trace of his tanned skin, or his dark hair, or his blue eyes. Up ahead, he could see a gap in the crops. Surely there. Emil stood frozen, as still as a statue. His mind yelled at him to back away, to call for Caspian, to return to the castle. Yet even if he wanted to move, he couldn't. His eyes were stuck on the place he'd never been so close to before. The forest. It was common knowledge that the forest housed a danger that would take your life if you were even to take a step into it. Some would say it was a risk to even stare too long at it. A deep sense of foreboding settled in the man's chest as he finally gathered the courage to turn away from the tree line. Time seemed to finally resume, and Emil noticed the way his heart beat hard enough to burst from his chest. That vast darkness that was whispered about in the dead of night seemed to be crawling its way from the forest towards him, as if trying to drag him in by his ankles. Don't be stupid, Emil. It's nothing. Whoa, there you are. I was worried you were curled up in a ball somewhere crying. What? I wouldn't do that. And don't just grab onto me out of nowhere. It wouldn't be the first time. That was different. I was younger. If my memory is correct, I'd say it was about 6 months ago. Caspian chuckled lightly before turning his eyes towards the tree line. His gaze wasn't the same as Emil's. There was no sense of terror in his eyes. Instead, it seemed as if he were excited. You know, this is the first time I've been anywhere close to the forest. Caspian took a few steps closer towards the tree line. Emil, desperate to not be left alone, followed behind him carefully, glancing left and right as if waiting for something to jump out and grab him. Caspian, let's go already. It was like an invisible wall surrounded the entire city. Out there, endless forest filled with creatures worse than any nightmare, and in here, safety provided by the divine speaker. The choice was obvious, was it not? Yet, what was that sparkle in the prince's eye? Aren't you even a little bit interested? He reached a single hand out and touched one of the trees. The leaves rustled as his fingers grazed over them. In what? The forest. Emil felt his jaw drop. Caspian had always been outgoing and hadn't let the words of others hold him back from doing what he wished. But this was something more. Something he shouldn't be saying. What do you mean, am I interested in the forest? Of course I am. I'm interested in getting the hell away from it. Don't you feel it? Cass, you sound like a madman right now. Then maybe I am mad. It's like something out there is calling to me, drawing me in, begging me to go. The only thing calling to you out there is death. You know that. Perhaps. Or perhaps that's what they want us to think. Caspian. You're probably right. Still, our whole lives we've been cooped up in this town. Sometimes I long for something else. Something bigger than us and this town. Something like adventure. And you think being king won't be an adventure in and of itself? You'll have the weight of the world on your shoulders, my liege. I know you're right. In my mind at least. But my heart... Is someone out there? Who's shuffling about on my crops? Emil and Caspian instantly stopped their bickering and quieted their breathing. Who is it? Darn kids. Who is that? Why would anyone else be here? If we get caught here... Panic began to set in. Neither Caspian nor Emil wanted to be found here, of all places. Do you trust me? Caspian's eyes locked onto Emil, who found himself frozen for an entirely different reason now. It was as if he could see all the way through Emil, straight to his very soul. Of course I do. He didn't waste another moment. Caspian wrapped his fingers around Emil's slender wrist and pulled him into a run. Wait, where are we going? Keep your voice down. You said you trusted me. Who's there? The sound of someone pushing aside crops became closer and closer. It's now or never. A single step, and they were over the threshold. That's all it took. A single step that changed the course of both of their lives. A single step that locked their fates in place, forever. He pulled Emil into the forest, and the two ran like their lives depended on it. What have you done? Well, we haven't instantly been cursed by the gods or experienced spontaneous combustion, so it's going better than I expected already. As far as I'm aware, anyway. The forest was eerily quiet. It seemed to stretch on forever in every direction. We're going to die. We can't be out here. Nobody goes out here. Oh my gods, what are we doing? Calm down, calm down. I'm perfectly calm. Okay, nice to meet you, perfectly calm. Anyway, have you ever stopped and wondered why no one goes out here? The two men huffed and puffed, exhausted. Caspian collapsed backwards onto the forest floor with a thud. Come sit down. Take a breather for a minute. We have to go. If we stay here... Come on. Caspian gently pat the spot by his side. Of course, it was nothing more than dirt and grass, but when Caspian was the one inviting him, it suddenly looked a lot more attractive to Emil. Without another complaint, Emil sat down beside him. Those puppy dog eyes are too powerful. He's seriously a force to be reckoned with. Take a look around. Properly this time. Can you see them? The birds? What about them? Do you think they look evil? What do you mean? They're just birds. Right. You're exactly right. They're just birds. He smiled to himself as if he'd just worked out something important. He's always been like that. When I was scared, when I thought I had no place in the world, he'd always smile and I would feel a little bit better. Even now. I hate it. I hate how it makes me feel. Emil? Huh? I asked you something. Sorry, I was zoning out a little. He leaned in closer, scrutinizing Emil's face. You always do that. Sorry. I asked you, do you really think it's evil out here? Of course I do. We've always been taught that. Yeah, blah blah blah. We've been taught a lot of things. That's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you how you feel. What you think, not what you've been taught. Close your eyes and tell me what you actually feel. Reluctantly, Emil did what he was told. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. What I actually feel. Fresh air, the smell of moss, a slight breeze that carried a sweet scent, the sound of flapping wings and the chirping of birds. I don't know. Concentrate harder for a second, will you? He closed his eyes even tighter, screwing up his face in the process. What exactly does he want from me? What else is there? Warm sunlight cascaded over his skin, falling from the canopy above. Below him, he felt the softness of the forest floor springing to life. He felt the refreshing feeling of dew landing on his face. An earthy smell. Cicadas and frogs being noisy, as usual. He opened his eyes again. So? I know what you're trying to do. It might not seem so bad, but that doesn't mean it's good. You know how dangerous it is. We just haven't found the danger yet. Always so serious. One of us has to be. Imagine if both of us acted like you do. Right, then we'd be having too much fun. No, we'd be dead out here in the forest. Let's go back. They'll be searching for us. Let them. They can't control us forever. Cass, I seriously don't know what's gotten into you. I know you've always been carefree, but you're taking it too far. What about your father and mother? What about Arola? Do you want her to get into trouble too? You know, sometimes it's okay to pull that stick out. Stick? That's not funny. You know I'm just kidding. Okay, let's go back. Caspian stood from the ground and stretched before holding out a hand to Emil. He hesitated for only a moment before he took that outstretched hand. Of course, taking his hand is the right thing to do. No big deal, right? Just what's wrong with me? His hand was soft and warm. Caspian had the hands of a man who had never worked a day in his life, and probably never would. Not that I'm one to talk. They're so much bigger than mine, too. Which way is it? Follow me. I made sure to keep track of the way we came. That's one smart thing then. Really? I'm sure it was this way. Okay. The sun had long since set over the forest, and the moon could be seen through the thick canopy. We hadn't even gone that far, and yet... It's like we've gone in one big circle. They're going to kill us. Seriously, we're going to die. If not to the forest, then to your father. He will kill us. I'd be more worried about my mother, honestly. Ugh. How about I lead the way? You? Do you remember the way back? No, but I can't get us any more lost than you've made us already. Ouch, that hurts. Fine, you can lead the... Whoa! Watch out! Emil caught hold of his shoulders just before he could fall flat on his face. You clumsy fool. Pay a little more attention to where you're walking. It's not my fault that it's so dark out here. Who put all these roots everywhere anyway? Just take my hand, okay? I'll make sure you don't trip. What would I do without you? Trip over, obviously. Emil gently took Caspian's hand in his own. Once again, his heart fluttered in a way that confused him greatly. He swallowed hard, trying to suppress the feeling to no avail. Eventually, he settled with turning away from Caspian, suddenly embarrassed. Come on then. Yes, Sir Speaker. Hey, don't call me that. But it's true. Not yet. You've got to get used to it at some point. Not Emil, but the great Lord Speaker. I don't think I'll ever be used to it. One day I'll be the one giving out judgments and giving speeches in the town square. I suppose so. Huh. I can't even imagine it. I doubt anyone will take me seriously. I'll make sure they do. You won't be alone anyway. We'll be together. Always. That hurts. The air was particularly cool this time of the night and this time of the year. Despite the way the forest seemed to flourish, it wouldn't be long until winter set in. Yet Emil's face felt hot, as if he was standing in the sun on a summer's day. Emil, you know, just because you have to become the speaker, doesn't mean you have to be the same as him. You're allowed to be yourself too. We have our own lives to live. I'm sorry, Caspian. I don't think I'll ever get to live my own life. No other words were spoken between the two men. The forest remained ever quiet as well, perhaps to give them some time alone to think. And think they did. About the future, about their lives, about the expectations that weighed heavily on each of their shoulders. And about each other, too. On this cold night in the forest, the hands that linked the two men together was the only source of warmth left. Up ahead, the trees began to thin out, and from beyond, light could finally be seen. Well, look at that. Good job. Hey, holding hands like this reminds me of when we were kids. Emil gingerly let go of his hand, yet a small part of him begged him to hold on tighter instead. We should go straight back. If anyone sees us here. I have an idea, actually. Do you trust me? Last time you said that you led me into the forest, and for some stupid reason, I'm inclined to agree yet again. Caspian smiled before taking the lead and dragging Emil back through the rows of crops. Full of such a yearning for adventure, yet he gets us lost instantly. I suppose he has to be bad at something, or it truly wouldn't be fair. Emil stared at his back, broad and wide, much more so than his own. In recent years, he really had come into his own. He really did look the part of a prince. I've had a lot of time to think. About myself, about Caspian, about the ways our lives interconnect. If I had to explain our future king, bright and warm. When he spoke, people listened. When he smiled, people would stop and stare. He was like the sun, like a summer's afternoon breeze. In that way, the two of us couldn't be more different. Sometimes, it feels as though if I reached out towards his back, I would never be able to reach it. My fingers would graze against him, and he would keep going somewhere I couldn't ever follow him. To some faraway place, while I remained trapped. I suppose the moon can never truly meet the sun. Emil's mind raced with the same thoughts that had kept him up late into many nights. Can we truly stay together forever, like he promises? And I wonder, is it lonely for him too? With all the warmth he casts, does he feel the same? Or is it just me that wallows in this coldness, in a shadow? The two kept walking through the night quietly. Is there a place for me beside you in that sunlight? Emil, please. So Caspian is in his rebel phase and Emil is in his emo phase? Yeah, did we get that straight? Teenagers. They quickly passed through the fields and found themselves on the west side of town. Before they could reach the castle, the town square and the first district still remained in their path. How do you expect us to sneak past everyone? I don't. Despite the fact that the sun had set long ago, the town square was still bustling with people. As Emil and Caspian entered, a few curious onlookers glanced towards the pair out of the corners of their eyes. Others did a double take, shocked to see the two out alone late at night. But others knew better. They knew Emil and Caspian were quite troublesome, and seeing them where they weren't supposed to be was just another common occurrence. I'd much rather just abide by the rules and not get stared at. If only Caspian agreed. Emil stepped to the side, narrowly avoiding running into a pair of young boys playing a game. One with red hair and one with green. They both looked far too young to be out this late alone. There he is. Oh no! Fine, you're pretty good with a dagger. But there's gotta be something I can win at too. Oh, I know. Let's play hopscotch. Prince Caspian, young master speaker. Uh-oh. Emil cringed back from that title. Something about it sent a shiver down his spine. Where do you think you've been? Well, you see, there's a funny story about that. Hey, you're gonna pull my ear off. Not gonna. Going to, young man. You two are in big trouble. If you ever see the light of day again, I will be surprised beyond measure. Everyone's been searching high and low for you. I'd expect this from you, Prince Caspian, but Emilius, I thought you'd be more mature than this. I'm sorry, ma'am. As you should be. Tomorrow we'll be starting again from lesson 1, and this time you'll sit through it all. No more running away, no more gallivanting through town, and most of all, no more adventures. Do you understand? Yes, ma'am. Arella let go on Caspian's ear just long enough to grab the two young men by the wrists. With a grip to be feared, she pulled them back towards the castle. Emil's head hung in shame. It was all already embarrassing enough, but now the stares were not subtle whatsoever. The onlookers gawped at the amazing scene playing out in front of them. The future king and the future speaker being yelled at in public, then paraded around town by their wrists. Well, at least not by their ears. It would surely be a tale they told their entire families. Hey, what part of this was a good plan? Better for her to find us here than there, right? I guess so. Still. While Emil's eyes were downcast, Caspian looked up as if proud of his achievement. It was the way he'd always been. After a stern talking to by Arella, Caspian was sent back to his room for the night, while Emil was sent to the archives to meet with the speaker. Emil found himself starting to feel nervous. As far as he was aware, Lucius shouldn't have known about their late-night escapades, and a lesson at night was not unheard of, yet he still felt uneasy about it. My, is our Emilius feeling a little glum? Sir Speaker. Emil bowed deeply as Lucius, the speaker himself, entered the room. His white robes flowed out behind him as he walked. His deep red eyes followed Emil closely. He'd always found solace in his mentor's company, but he could never shake the feeling that those eyes were the eyes of a predator, and he was just lowly prey in comparison. Those eyes showed no sign of whatever secrets he kept close to his chest. It was a great strength of his. I was just thinking a little, sir. Nothing's wrong. Really? My mistake then. Here I thought it had something to do with your little trip out with the princeling. Surprised, I know? No, sir. I apologize. You don't owe me any apology, Emilius. It's that Caspian, isn't it? Always forcing you to go along with every single whim that comes into his head. He is barely fit to be a king. That's not true. Emil bit his tongue. Although he wanted to defend Caspian, this was the one man he could never speak back to. But that's no matter. It remains to be seen if he will even become king in the first place. Anything could happen between now and then. Lucius paused, his eyes trailing up and down Emil slowly, as if he was contemplating something. That thing you wear on your head is laughable at best. How many times must I tell you to be rid of it? Yes, Sir Speaker. Have you been continuing your studies while I've been gone? Yes, sir. I've been following your notes closely. Between being pulled around by the princeling, I'm sure. Have you made any progress? Emil barely held back a sigh. He tried to think up some excuse, some reason for his lack of progress, but he had none. Speaking with the gods, listening to their requests and passing on their messages. That was the job of a speaker, to be the in-between of humans and the deities they worshipped. But Emil wasn't like other speakers. Despite being trained from birth, he had no control over his abilities and struggled to contain them at the best times. I haven't made any progress. The way a speaker spoke to the gods was shaped by them. It was something very personal to each person, a reflection of their inner selves, so to speak. For some, meditation helped them to connect. For others, dreams, prayers, cards, water, you name it. But for Emil, it was like a switch that could never be turned off. Running through his head was a constant stream of voices. Cries, screams, they all combined into one mindless noise. A crowd of voices. He had never been able to make out what they truly said. Well, that's unfortunate. Lucius' long fingers tapped against the wooden desk. Emil stared down at the ground, the guilt eating him up. No matter what I do, it's no good. Even if I'm used to the sound now, it means nothing if I can't understand what they're saying. There's no way around it. To be speaker, you must be able to hear. At this rate... I'm sorry. I promise, sir, I'll continue trying hard. Yes, you had better. A little less time gallivanting around town would do you good. The silver-haired man nodded glumly, feeling the weight of his mentor's words on his heart. If I spent less time with Caspian, then I wouldn't be a failure? What would be the point? He's the only thing that makes all of this worth it. May I ask where you've been the past week? Have I not told you? Emil shook his head. At some point, Lucius had begun to pace back and forth, a habit of his when he began to think. Eventually, a smile rose to the black-haired man's face. Azeros. Azeros? What's that? Sir? Your lovely king's latest bright idea. I've been put in charge of its management. Think of it as a place to reward those who have spent their lives in servitude to the gods. That sounds wonderful. Oh, it is very wonderful indeed. His Highness was wise to let me oversee the project. I'll be spending more time there as I set up the mechanics, so to speak. I expect you'll use the extra time for self-study. Yes, Sir Speaker. Good. Oh, and Emilius? I think it best you begin to distance yourself from His Highness' family. I feel a storm coming. Lucius turned and left the study, leaving Emil alone with his words. A storm coming? It's true that His Majesty and Lucius used to be quite close. At some point, the current king and speaker had drifted apart, for reasons unknown. Emil shook his head, too tired to think any more on his words. With a shaky palm, the future speaker extended his hand and stared at the empty space above it. Lucius had full control of his abilities from a young age. Extrasensory perception through dreams, visions of events in the past, present, and future. An ability fit for a speaker. Unlike me. A gentle haze floated above his palm. A fog that could cause hallucinations and illusions. An ability for someone not to be trusted. If the gods had thought to give me this gift, so tailor-made for myself, then why was it this? What did that say about me? What do they know that I don't? Emil clenched his hand into a fist. The small amount of mist, the most the young speaker could manage, dissipated into nothingness. A sense of loneliness coursed through his body. Why does it have to be me? Leaving the archives behind, Emil stepped out into the dim corridor that awaited beyond. The place that would usually be filled with the sound of chattering voices was now dead quiet. Outside, the moon hung high in the sky, reminding the young man of what exactly he had done. His eyes whipped away from the window and back to the cold stone beneath his feet. How many times had he and Caspian gotten themselves in a situation like this? How many times had he been disciplined for following Caspian like a lost puppy? But this time is different. We did something we really shouldn't have. I wonder if Caspian really went back to his room like he was told to. It would be unlike him, that's for sure. The sound of Emil's footsteps echoed through the empty space. For once, he missed the chattering that would usually be present throughout the castle. When he was surrounded by noise, at least the voices swirling around in his head were easier to ignore. He stumbled forward, catching hold of the wall to steady himself. "Help us. Please, young master. Pain. So much pain. Help. 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 Please, be quiet." "Young Master Speaker, is that you?" "Now I'm in trouble. I'm sorry. I promise I'm on the way back to my... Shush, I'm not here to discipline you. Are you okay? Are you not well?" "I'm fine. Just a bit of a headache." "That's unsurprising. You're up far too late." "What about you, Arella?" "Mind your cheek. Come on, I'll help you back to your room." "It's fine." "Amelius, how long have we spent together? I know when you are unwell. Allow yourself to be looked after, please." Arella wrapped her thin arm around Emil's shoulder, holding him up. He was instantly thankful for her help. The voices weren't going to quiet anytime soon. "It's far past midnight, you know." "I'm sorry for making you worry, for making you have to work so late." "It is my honor to work so late for both you and Caspian, though I wish you would be a little more responsible at times." "Because we'll be in charge soon, right?" Arella shook her head. "Well, yes, but no. Because you will only have each other one day, and at least one of you will have to be the responsible one." "It won't be Caspian." "I'm well aware. I'm also well aware that you'll probably be dragged around by him for the rest of your life." "I know I should tell him no, but I'm afraid then he'd just find someone else to go with him, and I'd be completely alone." Whether it was the way his head pounded in response to the cacophony in his head, or the fact he was way past tired, he didn't know. For some reason, he felt like he could be honest with Arella. Arella, who had been with him since he was just a baby, who was the closest to a mother he would ever be allowed to have. "You are not so easily replaced, Amelius." "Then why did my parents give me up?" "I would imagine they had little choice." If they really loved me, they wouldn't have done it. Well, I for one am glad. Had they kept you, then we would never have met. Sorry, Arella. I'm glad too. Caspian adores you. He would never throw you aside. Just remember that. The two reached the door to Emil's bedroom. There, Arella finally let him go. He held fast to his doorknob, careful to keep himself stable. Thank you, Arella. I must just be overtired. Please, pretend I never brought any of this up. Emilius, you can always come to me if you're struggling. You know that? I'm fine, but thank you. Alright, get some sleep. You have a lesson first thing tomorrow morning. I don't even get the morning off? You do not. With a smile that said she wouldn't really mind if he were late, Arella left Emil alone. But for once, he didn't feel quite so alone. She had no answer to why my family would have given me up. Probably because faced with the same offer my parents received, she wouldn't have turned them down either. That's the way things worked within Aurelia Cabella. Once the speaker found their successor through their judgment, they were whisked away to the castle to be brought up with the royal family. The parents would be paid handsomely for their contribution to the city and promised a lifetime of luxury, as long as they agreed to never contact their child. And they certainly kept their end of the bargain. Emil sat on his bed, bringing his knees up to his chest. If I had been born with a normal judgment, where would I be? Working the very same fields that Caspian and I trampled today? Running a store in the center of town? Would it be a slow, calm life, or would I be hard at work? Would I catch a glimpse of the handsome Prince Caspian's face and wish I had been born speaker? He smiled at the thought. The grass is always greener on the other side, isn't it? At least this way I have Caspian by my side. I don't need my parents. I don't care if no one truly cares for me past my judgment, as long as we're together. Just one quick side note, if his parents... Because he's framing it as if his parents only took the money or whatever and didn't care about him. But even if it's... I don't quite remember if we knew more about that, about what really happened with his parents. But like... Obviously they would think, oh, this is a great chance for our child, right? Like you would know that they were going to have an important task in their life, that they would theoretically, like as far as they know, have a good life. So in that sense, it could also mean they gave up being in contact with their kid for them to have a fantastic future, right? So just, yeah. I mean, I'm not like, I'm not in the same position, I don't know how that feels, but of course it's going to be complicated if you're in that situation of your parents having, yeah, maybe from your point of view given up, but I'd like to see it that way, that they wanted to give Emil the future. And I mean, they probably didn't even have a choice in the matter, if we're being really real. Like, what else would they have done? Like, ran away into the forest and for all they knew be killed rather than, accepting to at least give their kid a chance. Just a thought. Yeah, as long as we're together. Emil rolled onto his back and sighed, staring up at the ceiling. What right do I have to complain? There are people starving out there, and I'm feeling bad for myself about being brought up alongside royalty. I've never wanted for anything. I was welcomed into the household with open arms. I have an education that others could only dream of. I have Caspian. How many people would wish to be this close to the crown prince? But it was never my choice. You can't fight against fate, can you? If I told any of this to anyone, they would think I'm a spoiled, unappreciative brat. I shouldn't have said any of that to Arala. One day it will be my turn to rip a child away from their family, to become a part of destiny. I should stop thinking about this stuff. Rubbing his eyes, Emil stood from his bed and sat himself down at his desk. Sitting on it unobtrusively was a leather-bound journal with a plain cover. In it, Emil wrote everything he would never dare to speak a word of to another person. His thoughts, his dreams, his wishes, his complaints. The cover was still blank, awaiting a title. Anything I come up with just sounds corny. Emil's dream journal, Emil's thoughts. No Caspians allowed? He flipped to a blank page and put his quill to paper. And there he wrote the first thing that came to mind. Prince Caspian. Today we ran together through the fields. I thought we were going to get caught, but we somehow got away with it, by running away into the forest. We held hands and walked through the darkness side by side. Being next to him makes me feel less scared. It felt like time stood still, like we went to a place where being king and speaker didn't matter. A place just for the two of us. It was our secret. The tip of his quill stopped dead as he thought of the words that would come next. And I wish time wouldn't resume, that we really could run away on an adventure, just the two of us. But it cannot, and this fate must be a burden I carry myself. Emil stood, leaving the book open to dry, and blew out the candle that rested on the top of his desk. He stumbled back and fell into bed, closing his eyes. I remember my first life. The man's long black hair flowed out behind him as he paced back and forth, deep in thought. Though I doubt it was truly my first life. The first life I remember. Perhaps that's a better way to put it. I remember my face, my voice, my body. And I remember your face, your voice, your body. Though at this point, I wonder if I truly do remember you. Was that truly how your face looked? Did your voice really rise like that at the end of each sentence? Moonlight streamed in from the open window, giving the man a glow that seemed almost inhuman. A knock sounded from the door. Lucius stopped mid-pace, looking back towards the unfamiliar sound. Who would be visiting at this time of night? Lucius, it's me. Are you still here? The door opened without a word escaping Lucius' lips. From the darkness beyond, a man with dirty blonde hair and deep blue eyes stepped inside. There you are. Lucius looked away from a smile. That smile does not belong to him. Surrounding the king was an aura of the deepest purple, a color that belonged to someone truly one of a kind. An aura that does not belong to him. What do you want? How long are you going to keep this up? Taking a deep breath, Lucius wiped the frown from his face and smiled at the man. Keep what up, Your Majesty? All of this. Bastron vaguely gestured towards the entirety of Lucius. You refuse to see me anymore. You won't come to any social events. You spent all of your time holed up here or in Azeroth. To tell you the truth, I suggested you take over the project because I believed we could spend more time together. Bastron closed the door behind him before sitting down on top of the desk Lucius had been sitting at only a moment ago. I believe that a chair was put here for a reason, my king. Bastron looked back towards it before scooting back further onto the desk, ignoring his suggestion. Not my king, Bastron. These days, you refuse to even speak my name. I don't know what you're talking about, Your Majesty. Lucius, please. How many years will this go on for? When will you treat me as a friend once again? We are not friends. You are not my friend. You are not him. You will never be him. You are a thief and nothing more. Lucius sighed dramatically before looking back towards Bastron with a sympathetic expression on his face. I believe there's been a misunderstanding, Bastron. Perhaps I've been too preoccupied with work after all. How can I make it up to you? Oh, I know. How about dinner? Me, you, and the rest of your family. Really? You're really ready to put all of this aside? Of course. I can only apologize for being so difficult these last few years. Lucius, we've known each other our entire lives. Don't think I can't see through your sarcasm. I have no clue what you're talking about. Okay, dinner. That's a start. I'll start organizing it. If you see Caspian about, can you mention it to him? It would be my pleasure. Alright. Don't stay up too late, you hear? Go and rest. I don't want you working yourself to death. Good night, Your Majesty. Bastron stood, dusted off his trousers, and exited the archives. Where he sat, wisps of purple were left behind. Lucius twirled his fingers through the remnants of that strong, one-of-a-kind soul. The one he had begun to forget after this long. Yes, I remember my first life quite well. What? Oh. Way to make you curious. Not even sure what to say. I mean, of course, you're only getting a glimpse of, yeah, what is also not, I don't think, going to be a huge game. There's more information on the shop pages, of course, if you want to check it out for yourself. I always have the links down below. But yeah, I mean, for a demo, again, it's actually a good length. I mean, I knew it was going to be short. Of course, way shorter than the huge demo we have for the main game, which I still think is crazy. Thank you for playing the demo to the Divine Speaker, the Sun and the Moon. We hope you enjoyed your time with Emil and Caspian. I did. Make sure to keep an eye out for when we release the full game. I will for sure. I hope you will too. Yeah, that was it for the demo. So what I can say for the game, we, as is also in the demo here, we are not expecting to have any voice acting for the Sun and the Moon, unless it's going to be funded via, I don't know, maybe Kickstarter, I'm not sure. It's in the stars. Yeah, so the Divine Speaker itself does have full voice acting, and yeah, voice patch for everything that's still missing should be coming out soon. But they're not guaranteeing basically to have voice acting in the Sun and the Moon, which is understandable. Voice acting is expensive and it's a lot of work. I can't help but be a little sad about it, just because the voice acting in the Divine Speaker was really good. Like, I was very impressed with it. So, would be great to have it again, but it's not a must. It's like a welcome addition, but definitely not a must. It can tell the story from the text alone, of course. But yeah, let me know what you think. Have you played the main game? I don't know. Anything else? Any thoughts? I would really appreciate to know. And yeah, you can download this demo for free. I mean, there's no choices, but if you want to read through it again for yourself. Yeah, and then let's look forward to the full game. I will once again not be playing the full game on my channel because it's supposed to be 18+. We don't do that here. So if you want to get the full story, I highly recommend following the devs, or yeah, following them on Twitter or on Patreon, as you can say here. There's a Discord as well, or just follow them on itch or Steam, wishlist the game, play it for yourself. Yeah, but that is it from me at this point. I hope you enjoy it, and until next time, bye bye!